Hi there and welcome to this video. In this video, let's do Hetzner Debian 12 setup. So you're going to see an initial server setup for Debian 12 on Hetzner Cloud. If you want to use Debian for anything in a production environment, make sure you follow the steps to improve some aspects of security for your Debian server. First things first, I will use this post, Debian 12 initial server setup. I will add the link in the description below. If you're new to Hetzner and you don't have an account already, you can just click there on that and you're going to get 20 euros of credit. This is for new Hetzner accounts. If you're on Windows and you want to follow along, install Git and then open Git bash, and then you will be able to run the same commands that I'm running on Linux. Assuming you already have a Hetzner account, you've logged into your account, let's see how you can deploy Debian 12 and set it up. So come here and choose Cloud. Robot, this is where dedicated servers are, but we want to use Cloud. So I'll click there on Cloud. If you don't have a project already, you can always create a new project. Just give it a name, and in that project you can add everything like servers, load balancers, and so on. In this case, I will use the test project to create a server. I'm going to choose Falkenstein. The image, of course, we want Debian 12. So Debian 12. And then the type of server, you can have shared virtual CPU or dedicated CPU. In this case, we're going to go with the shared CPU. These are the normal VPSs. These are also VPSs, but the CPU is not shared, it's dedicated. So in this case, I can go with, so I can see certain servers are not available here. Let's see if they're available in a different location. Yeah, so if I choose a different location, I can see that all the servers are there. I'm going to choose CX32. So on top of this, there are also Ampere servers. If you want to use ARM processors, then you can select those there. But of course, I want to go with Intel or AMD, the AMD 64 processors. And that's why I'm choosing that. Networking, I want a public IPv4. I want a IPv6 as well. Private networking, I don't need private networking for this. SSH key, I'm just going to do this without an SSH key. The password should be sent to you via email. Volumes, I don't need volumes. Firewalls, I don't need to work with firewalls. Backups, always enable backups if this is a production server. Placement groups, I don't need to work with that. I don't need to labels. I don't have any labels for this server or previous labels that I can work with. Cloud config, I don't need to work with cloud init, so I'm just going to leave that. And one thing that is important, make sure you add a fully qualified domain name for the name here, and this is going to get added as your server host name, and that's important. So make sure it's a fully qualified domain name. That is a domain that when you add DNS records to, it can be accessed. I can just confirm everything is as it should. Helsinki, most importantly, Debian 12. The rest doesn't really matter. So I'm going to create and buy now. When you open your email, you're going to get your password and the IP there. So this is what I need. I'm just going to copy the password. Copy, and I will put it here on VS Code. I will also copy my IP. All right, so let's come and log into the server for the first time. So I will do SSH. So if you're on Windows, open Git bash to follow along with me. Root, and then @ and then the IP. So on terminal in Linux, you can paste by doing Ctrl+Shift+V. On Git bash, you can do Shift insert. Enter. Type yes. Enter. our root password is that. Copy. Control-Shift-V to paste. You won't see any output. Press enter. There you go. You need to change your password. So current password is that. Copy. I'm just going to Control-Shift-V to paste, enter, and then new password. Set a new password, 0p. Copy. Control-Shift-V, enter. Control-Shift-V to confirm the password. Okay, so the password has been changed for the root user. SSH into the server. We've logged into the server. The next step is to update the server. Let's update the server and then install these applications there. Control-Shift-V to paste, enter. The next step, once the server is updated, is to create an admin user. So to create a user in Debian, you're going to do that. This is the name of the user. You can change that name to whatever you prefer, and definitely make sure you change the name to something different. And then the user mode, user mode is used to modify a user. In this case, it's going to add a user to a group, and it's going to add the user to the sudo group, and the user being added is that. So I'm going to copy this, and this one, I can't run it with anything else because once I run this, I'm going to need to confirm if the new user can use sudo. Let's wait for this to complete. There we go. Updates are complete. All the applications we were to install are already installed. Control L to clear the screen. Control-Shift-V. So enter a new password for this user. And I'm just going to use the same password. Control-Shift-V. Control-Shift-V. So the password is changed. So for this, I'm just going to skip this by pressing enter. Is the information correct? Yes, I'm just going to press enter. All right, the next thing that we need to do here is to confirm that this user that we've created can use sudo. And then later on, we're going to disable the root user from logging into the server. And then we can use this user to manage the server using sudo. So the next step is to confirm that we can log in. So of course, I don't want to type on terminal. So I'm just going to copy my IP here, Control-C, bring it here, Control-V, and the user, your new user, we want to test if this user can log in. So to log in, of course, you've seen you can log in using SSH, and the user at that IP. So I'm going to Control-C to copy that. I'll open a different terminal window to confirm if I can log in. Control-Shift-V, SSH, your user and IP, enter. And then the password, copy, Control-Shift-V. There you go. You can log in you have logged in with the new user. The next step is to confirm if the new user can use sudo. So I'm going to copy, enter the password for the user, Control-Shift-V. So it says your user is not in the sudoers file. Okay, let's just reboot. Maybe that is the issue here. I'm just going to do reboot as the root user and give the server some time to restart. This side as well, I will log in with the user I've just created. And after rebooting the server, you're going to see now the user has been added to the sudo users. So all you needed to do was to reboot the server. So the next step is to set up SSH key authentication for your server. So the first step is to generate the SSH key. So I'm going to chain these commands to save time. So I'm going to come here. Here, what you're doing is you're creating a directory, and the directory will be in your home folder called .ssh if it doesn't already exist, and the keys will be stored in that directory. The next step, we'll generate the keys, and the keys will be of this type, ed25519 key. So that resembles the type, that defines the type of key. And then the file name for our key will be this. So this is a folder we've created up here, and in that folder we're going to create an SSH key called this, an SSH key pair called that. You can change the name of that key, you can change the name of that folder to whatever you prefer. So I already have a key like this, so at some point it's going to ask me, when I run the command, it's going to ask me if I want to override. So in case you don't want to ever override your keys, you just create a different folder, or you give the keys a different name. So maybe there it can be key 2, but I'm not going to change the name. Once we generate the key, step 2 is to copy the key to your server. So to copy the key is going to require SSH copy ID and the identity of the public key. This is a key that has been generated, and then your user and your IP. So I'm going to copy this last bit, copy. So remember, it's just one command that has been formatted down here. So SSH copy ID, and I should remove the extra spaces because sometimes it creates a problem. Your user is that, your IP, we just need to copy the IP from there, and I will replace the IP. Make sure you replace everything that you've changed, everything that you edited. Make sure you replace it. For example, if you give the key a different name, if you gave your user a different name, make sure you replace that. So create the key, generate the key, create the folder, generate the key pair, and then add the key to your server. And then after that, we need to log in with this key. So I'm just running all of this in one line. There's no point running, waiting. So that's why I'm putting them in VS Code together. And then after that is to log in with the key, assuming it's already been added to your server. So I'm just going to copy this, and to log in with the key, all you need to do is SSH and your user and IP, and then the identity of your key that was generated. So let me bring that here. Paste and remove these extra spaces. These are just extra white space. Okay, so SSH, your user and IP, and then the identity of the key. So this is a private key. So something I haven't mentioned up here is when you're adding the key to the server, you're adding the public key. And then we'll move on to this after we've tested that we can log in with the key. We are creating the directory, and then we are generating the key, and then we add the key to the server, and then we try to log in with the key. So here, of course, I will need to replace my key with the key that I generated. So make sure you get the correct key. That is the correct key. So starting again, folder created, key generated, key added to the server. Key is being tested if I can log in with it. So I'm going to copy. So for this, you need to run this on the local computer. And I can open a new terminal window here, and I will paste all the commands that I've just copied. So press enter. Do you want to overwrite the key that already exists? Type Y, press enter. So now the key is being generated. That's why it's asking you, do you want to enter a passphrase? And if you want to enter a passphrase, you can enter a passphrase for your key. In my case, I'm going to skip it. Skip. Okay. So once you see this, the key has been generated successfully. So the next step, it's running the next command, trying to add the key to our server. So enter the password for the user. The password for the user that you're trying to set up the SSH key for. Enter the password, Control Shift V, paste. So the key has been added. So it's the next step is going to try to log in with it. And the fact that you can see panel, that means that our key was created successfully and we've been able to log in with it. We can continue with this terminal. I'm just going to do Control L. So now that I'm logged in as this user, we can continue using this user. If you want to switch to the root terminal, you can always do so easily by just doing sudo -s, Control Shift V. The next thing in our server setup is to disable the root user from logging in and disable password authentication. So what's happening here is that we're going to add 2 lines into a custom file. So this file will be inside of this directory as a custom SSH configuration file. Once the file is created, that is added, you're going to restart SSH, and that's going to, in one line, basically disable the root user and password authentication. So before I even do anything, let me just try to run this and see if it's going to run. Basically, there's another file in there. There might be another file in there that might affect if this is going to work. So first things first, I'm going to run this. So let me just run it and see what happens. Okay, so the fact that this ran probably means that this file existed. So what I'm going to do now is run the above. So this is another custom configuration file that would affect how our SSH is working. That's why you just rename it, and by renaming it, you essentially disable it. So I'm going to copy that, Control Shift V, enter. And now if I was to try to log in as the root user or log in as the other user without an SSH key, I should get an error. So that's what I'm going to test next. So let's come here and I'm going to try to log in with this. Copy. Let me just open up a new terminal here. I'm just going to paste, enter. You can see permission denied, public key. At the same time, if I try to log in as a root user, I should receive the same error. There you go. So that is done. So if you need to log in, you're going to have to enter the identity of the private key. So the private key was this. Enter. There you go. So to log in, you need an SSH key, and the root user is now not allowed to log into the server. And then the next step after that is firewall setup. So if you're going to install HTTP, a control panel, or any other control panel that comes with a firewall, there are certain applications, turnkey applications, that automatically set up the firewall for you. In that case, you don't need to install firewall, and you don't need to enable it, and you damn sure don't need to allow any services. In this case, these services. In my case, I'm just going to copy this. Basically, it's going to install UFW, enable it, and allow SSH, HTTP, and HTTPS. Enter. And of course, it's going to ask you to confirm that you want to enable it. Press Y and then enter. So now the only ports that are allowed on my server are, if I was to do sudo, make sure that you use sudo UFW starters. Now the only ports that are allowed to access the server are these ports. If you need to allow anything else, you're going to have to allow it manually. And this is going to lead us into the next step of changing SSH port. And the first thing we're going to do is to allow a new SSH port. So that's how to allow a port. Control L to clear the screen, Control Shift V to allow the new port. So make sure you change the port number to something else and ensure that the port is not being used by something else. Once you confirm the port is allowed on the firewall, that's when we can edit the SSH configuration. And we're just adding a line of port is that. So make sure you edit this as well. If you changed the port for SSH, that from the one I'm using, and of course use a different port, you don't have to use this. Make sure you change it there. And what's happening here is just going to add it, it's just going to append it on the configuration file that we created up here. It's the same configuration. It's just going to append the line of that, and then it's going to restart SSH. So I'm going to copy and Control-Shift-V, enter. So now if I was to try and log in without explicitly defining a port, you'll see that I'm unable to log in. So let's test that. So I'll just open a new window. I'm just going to copy this. That is the login command. So you can actually paste this somewhere and save it. So next time you need to log in, you can just copy and paste. Control-Shift-V, enter, and you'll see that connection on port 22 refused. So if you need to log in, you're going to have to enter the port. You're going to need to define the port. So -P 7020 for our port, and then enter, and that's going to log you in. So make sure that you save your login info. Just copy it and save it somewhere. Next time you need to log in, you can just paste it into your terminal. Control-L. Let's see what's next. We need to create a swap file. So let's see if there's a swap already set up. If I do free-h, you'll see that we don't have a swap. So we can create a swap just as a temporary alternative memory. When you run out of space, when you run out of RAM, this can be used as a place where some files can be stored temporarily so that your server doesn't crash. So I'm just going to copy, and remember my server has 7 GB of memory, so a swap of 4 GB would just be enough. Okay, so I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste that in there, and if I need to edit anything, you can edit the amount of the swap. So in my case, let me make it 4 GB. If you have 2 GB of RAM, make it 4 GB. If you have 4 GB of RAM, you can make it 4 GB or 8. If you have 8 GB and above, just make it 8 GB or 4. Either is okay. So in this case, what's happening? We are allocating 4 GB to that file, and then we're going to change permissions for that file, and you can change the name of that file if you so wish. If you wish, you can change the name of this file. Okay, and when you change it, make sure you change it everywhere else where the file is mentioned. So once we change the permission for the file, we're going to make swap, turn it into a swap file, and then we're going to turn on the swap. And then this is going to add this line into etc fstub. So whenever your system starts, the swap will still be recognized. So when the system gets rebooted, the swap will still be available. So enter. And that's going to create our swap in just one line. So you can see how putting everything in one line saves time. Server host name. Let's just confirm if the host name is accurate, because when you were deploying the server, I told you to use a fully qualified domain name. And if you did that, then your server probably has the host name already set up. Control-L to clear the screen. Let me just switch to the other user so that we can be in the same space. I don't want to be using the root user while you're using the other user. So we can do host name, our host name, enter. So the host name is that, and let's confirm the full host name, and the full host name is that. So we can also confirm if the host name has been added in the etc hosts file. And this is important for mail servers. If you have a mail server, you have to set this up. So if I check, I can see that the loopback IP address is using our host name, and that is okay. So I'm just going to do Control-L and see what's next. If your host name is not set up, you're going to have to change it yourself. Okay, and you can do so like that, like that. Now the next thing is to set up automatic updates. Now I have a video for setting up automatic updates, and I'm not going to do this again. I'll just link to the video in the comments. I'm just going to link to the video in the comments and in the description. So that's an important one. Make sure you watch it and make sure you enable automatic updates, because I know some people usually take a long time before they go into their server, and that's how you'll get hacked. If you're using something that is outdated and is now being exploited in the wild, you will become a victim of malware, ransomware, any of those wares, any of those threats. So make sure you set up automatic updates. I'll put the link in the description, and don't be afraid of automatic updates. It's better for your server to be updated and something goes wrong than to have an outdated server running insecure applications. I see a lot of people who are scared of automatic updates. Don't be scared. Even if you update your server and something goes wrong, you can fix what is wrong, but you can't fix when you have a ransomware on your server. You'll just have to do away with that server and restore a backup. So make sure you set up automatic updates, and that should end this tutorial. If you don't have a Hetzner account, you can get $20 free credit. And if you have any questions, if you need help setting this up, you can always reach out. Our pricing is there, contact is there. If you need help setting up WordPress control panel, maybe Node.js on your server, Django, just feel free to reach out. All right, that should end the tutorial. If you have any question, feel free to let me know.